Hey, good evening, good evening, good evening, ladies. Happy Monday,
Yes, happy
Happy
Monday.
Monday.
May 19th. Can you believe
Yes.
it? It is May
Yes,
19th.
yes, yes,
The
yes. I
month
can.
is almost over.
I
Mm,
know
it's
the
flying,
month
it
is
feels
almost
like.
over. They done open our pool already. I'm like, wait a minute. What's
Right.
going on?
Wow.
Crazy. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, but hey, we made it another Monday.
That's right.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are happy to have you with us tonight for another episode of the Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network. And before we jump into our topic, we are going to get started as we normally do. And so, who wants to start with introductions and what you're grateful for?
Well, okay. I'll go. Hi, y'all. I am Regina Howard Norman. Some folks know me as Chef Regina because I love cooking, teaching how to cook, and preparing yummy, delicious treats. I also go by Regina, Sister Regina of my church. But if you know me, you know that you're always going to see a big smile. I'm not going to talk about the fact that I'm an author, published author. That's nice. But what's most important is that when I come on, I pray for the most part that your time is not wasted when you see us live or when you see us in a replay. And what
Nice.
I'm grateful for tonight is a redirection of my attitude because I was feeling a little salty about a couple of things, and I realized in the scope of it, it's so not important, or at the very least, it's not worth taking up space, filling it with negative energy. So I'm glad I redirected my attitude. Grateful.
Okay, Sheila.
That is a strong one right there.
Exactly.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Sheila Isom. I am an insurance claims professional. I'm going to try to run through it since my sister Regina didn't go through her as claims professional, independent color street stylist, a notary public, and an up and coming aspiring voice actor. And
And don't forget the event planning.
oh yes,
Yes,
yes, I
if
do
it's
event planning and I work at an event space too. So um, I am grateful just for another day. Nice and simple. Another
amen,
day. Thank you,
amen.
Lord.
Yes.
Yes. And last but not least, I am Theodora Carter. I am a certified professional coach, life coach, career coach, HR consultant. I am also an author. And none of like Gina said, none of that defines us because we all have moved past the space where we define ourselves by what we do.
Oh
Not
no.
right.
Okay. All right. All right.
And so, but I'm with Shirley today. I am just grateful for another day. I am just grateful for that is May 19th, like literally. And I'm grateful that there are people that think about me enough to just send me a prayer or a song or something, right? That lets me know that I was on their mind, right? And
Yeah.
so I
Okay.
Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network. We are about to get started, get into this topic, and we hope you will. If you're here live, you will drop something in the chat, and if you hear the replay, we hope you hear something that sticks with you. But let me tell you, ladies, how this topic came up: the comeback, bouncing back after a setback. So I honestly do not listen to a lot of rap music right now because I like the old stuff, right? Like a lot of this new stuff, I don't really flow with it. So if I am listening to something, it's old stuff. But I don't know if you guys heard single, the first single that Will Smith dropped with Tiana Taylor called Hard Times.
Oh
Right?
no.
I haven't heard it, but I heard of it. I haven't heard
So
it.
yeah, so when I heard that, I was like, oh, I'm feeling this song, right? And then I didn't realize that he actually had a new album out. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to it. So I had to drive to South Carolina on Saturday to attend a funeral, and so 2.5 hour drive. So I said, okay, I'm either listening to an audiobook, driving in silence, or something. I said, I'm gonna listen to this CD. Let me tell you something. I was like, okay, Will Smith, all right, I get you, because the name of the name of the album is, what is it? It's a true story or something like that. But he's basically just talking about, like, all his lyrics are talking about, I think, just his life, right? Like
Okay.
what he's been through to come back, like coming back. And he didn't say come back, but as I was listening to each track and just listening to the lyrics, I was like, you know what? I don't care what anybody says about Will Smith. I don't care how anybody feels about Will Smith. For me, and that's why I did a video on Instagram, and I started it out with, I know people are gonna be like, oh, what you talking about? I don't like it. I wasn't trying to debate. It was just my opinion. But I will tell you something. As I was listening to that, I was like, you know what? This is a comeback. Will Smith basically said, y'all can say whatever y'all want, but this is who I am. I'm an icon, because he used that one of his song. He says icon, right? Like, he literally was like, y'all can say whatever you want to say, but this is who I am. This is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm gonna keep doing, right? And so I was like, wait a minute, this would be a good topic, because how many of us have had to bounce back after a setback, right? After a disappointment, after a divorce, after an end of a relationship, after something didn't go the way you thought it was supposed to go, after somebody said something shady, or you did something or made a mistake, and somebody does not want you to forget that, Will Smith, right? Because even in there, like, he has these little skits where it starts out where you have people that are talking about, he's canceled, and then you got the other. So he's like, literally, like, I was like, okay, he's making him a message. What's the name of it? It's based on a true story.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just going to say that because, I pulled it up, and the songs that he has on there, and most of them he has a featured artist, right? He does an intro called Barbershop Day.
Yeah.
Then he does one that says, "You looking for me?" The Reverend, Rave in the Wasteland, Bulletproof, Hard Times, which is the one that you talked about.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Beautiful Scar, Tantrum, First Love, Make It Look Easy, The Reverend, again, You Can Make It, Work of Art, and then The Reverend again. Now, each time that The Reverend, right, the first time The Reverend is a rave sermon, it says. The second time it is a YCMI, and I guess we have to figure out what the YCMI means, sermon. And then the final, the Reverend is WOA sermon. Now, we're not talking about reverend as in your preacher. It is REVEREND. So now we got to look that up.
Yeah. And the barbershop track is a track where it's the people going back and forth about he's canceled. So it's like people in the barbershop, they're talking, and then all of a sudden you hear the door open, right? And then they say, "Hey, Mr. Smith," right? So it's like you ever had that feeling when you walk into a room and everybody gets quiet, or
Like you was talking about
changes
me.
up, so they were talking about you, right? But and the tracks with the reverend are kind of like a little skit of a sermon, but he's talking about being a sinner, how we all sin, and like it's. I really felt like it was his way of saying, yeah, this is based on a true story. This is everything I've been through, the healing and the song. Which one was it? I forget which one you said, but there's one where it's a woman who is singing in Spanish. And he has this guy that's playing guitar, and it's like amazing. But yeah, I really, First Love. That's the young lady, she's singing in Spanish. But I will honestly tell you, I know there are a lot of people that have something to say about it and not be favorable. But for me, especially Hard Times. Like if you get a chance, I don't know why, that is my favorite with Tiana Taylor. Like I just love the beat and the words. But I just felt like that's the first thing that popped in my mind. I was like, just coming back, especially for him, right? He got dragged, right? They kind of canceled him. Didn't they take his Oscar away or something? I don't remember.
They didn't take his Oscars away. They have banned him from the Oscars for 10 years.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, a lot of people don't come back from that, right? Especially let's just talk about the everyday person, right? We can relate. All of us have been through something where we thought maybe we're not gonna make it back. We're not gonna make it back from this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look at us now, right? So it's just interesting to me to think about what have been those comeback moments in your life that you're proud of, because for some of us it's not just one comeback, it's a lot. It's a lot. There's a lot of, some of us is like comeback, setback, comeback, setback, comeback, setback.
Yeah. So I mean, just getting back to a little bit about him. We won't talk about the incident because Lord knows it's been talked about enough.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that what I did like about the way that he addressed it was that he was silent for a while.
Mm.
And he took an opportunity for self-reflection, right? And then eventually he went back to being himself, because there's so much wallowing, so much apologizing, whether it's to others or to yourself, that you can actually do, right? Once that's done, and first and foremost, you have forgiven yourself, it's time to get back to yourself and to take the steps to show that you have atoned for whatever wrongdoing you may have, that you are moving forward as a better person. And I guess, I would really love to pick his brain about the fact that there's the Reverend 3 times, right? Because again, we're so used to the noun Reverend, right? Usually related to clergy, but then when you look at it as an adjective, it's something that's hallowed, sacred, something that's revered, and something that's venerable. So he went back to becoming the fresh prince.
Yeah.
Right? And time for me to be revered somehow, or to be viewed somewhere else. He felt it was necessary to get back to his roots, because what we happen to see is, we see a lot in our music industry. We see a lot of our comedians, our entertainers, who go off and they start doing movies and TV, and they never get back to how we knew them. right? Where they
Mhm.
originated from. Um, but he went back and he was able to show people that this is the original, this is the guy. I'm still the same guy, right? I had skills back then. I still have those skills.
Yep.
And so that's the part that I loved, is that it made you remember
Yep.
who we first saw him as and who we first gave accolades to.
Mhm.
So when you're coming back, right, when you have a setback, it's like you have to look at the steps that you need to take to get back to you,
Yep.
to not
And,
wallow in what happened.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you know, as y'all were really talking about him, I started thinking about how does that relate to what Theo said a few minutes ago, the everyday person. And we we don't have the I don't know, the blessing and the challenge of being in the spotlight on the level
Mhm.
of a Will Smith or anyone that has, we've known over the years that have gone through stuff. When it's public, and everybody has an opinion. You got your haters, your naysayers, you got your backseat psychiatrists, and everybody got something to say about what you should and shouldn't do. But for the most of us, it's not so much that we're battling with um, the opinions of a large public, right? We're dealing with our own self image
Mhm.
and the network of people that we have around us, or maybe lack thereof, what they think about us if we fell or if
Mhm.
something happened. And I just because I've had uh, some situations in regards to that, as far as work and relationship and health, like y'all are saying, after going through stuff, sometimes you have to remember who you are, what you're here for. And I think the fact that someone like a Will Smith can go back to what his one of his original purposes, to entertain, to empower, inspire with his music, right? To create positive vibes and everything else. We have to look at what was our original intention? What's our original
Mhm.
purpose? We may have set back in something. We may have had a fallout, or maybe we had to have a career shift. But what about who you are outside of those things?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
think about you as the person, not as the position, not as the title,
Mhm.
not as the one you're known for, but who are you? What do you know yourself to be, right? And then I like the y'all gave like a clinic on what he did. He took a time out.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to take a time out and do some self reflection. And he gave himself. We don't know how he decided whatever his time was going to be before he said enough was enough. But what he also did, which is a great takeaway, is that he was also developing. He was creating. He wasn't just sitting there like sitting in it, right? And just like going through it. There was some productivity that came out of that.
Yeah.
So as we go through our things, when we come back, you get to choose how you come back. You
Mhm.
don't worry about who people define you as, because now what I like Sheila said is that he went back to what we knew him to be, right? Summertime's always going to be that classic. No
Yeah.
matter what, no matter how many years later,
Mhm.
when
Yeah.
summertime come on, you're gonna be feeling that vibe, right? You gonna the lyrics just
Mhm.
gonna come. You're not even gonna know why, but it's just gonna come, and you're gonna be like,
Mhm.
yeah, summertime, right? But when it comes to us, he came in a certain way. We have to remember what our gifts are. No matter,
Yeah.
even if we had a mistake or something happened wrong, whatever, remember what you are uniquely made to do, made to be. And
Yeah.
in your process of going through and like coming back, remember the good stuff about you.
Mhm.
And understand that some people are going to see you and say, "Oh, some people love to say, remember when you did that thing the other day, or when you did that a few years? Like, no, I'm not remembering that. You know why? Because I'm living my life from the present to the future. So the
Yeah.
comeback also he did. He's like, all right, y'all out there, y'all saw me, everybody saw it. Probably got it on repeat. You got memes about it. But this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take what I know is inside of me, and I'm gonna create something beautiful. And if you like the vibe, if you like where it's coming from, you're gonna respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not, I'm not going to worry about you. I'm not going to let it stop my creativity, what I'm able to bring forth. So
Yeah.
when we think about coming back from a setback, you don't let anyone stop you for what you uniquely have to give, what you're uniquely here to do. And that's when I hear y'all talking about that. I'm like, wow, he was like, all right, I know what I did. I saw it. I did my thing. But I can't sit in that. Like Sheila said, how long do we sit in our being sorry, right? How long
Mm-hmm.
do we sit in our dang that was messed up? Because sometimes it's not something we did as much as something happened to us.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
But
things do happen, right?
but I think what you said that's important, right, is
She froze y'all, so she's saying it.
every every single I was gonna say every single one of us is always we're gonna always sit in something, whether you're a Will Smith, whether you're a regular Joe Small, right? Like, but
Right.
I think what matters is how you sit in it, right?
Yes.
Are you
Yes.
are you doing the work, right? Are you like he went through a period of, I'm sure, like Sheila said, self-reflection, accountability. Even the way he responded to everything, he responded in his time. He didn't come right out like everybody's like, oh, he needs to apologize. He didn't come right back. Like, he did everything in his time. And I think that's
Yeah.
We're buffering today,
some
y'all,
people
so just work with us.
because because they're on social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And so those people that are on social media, living their life on social media, then something happens, right? Now you got to make the decision on how you're going to come back. Because how many people have we watched rather than do what he did, which is take a step back, sit in it, see what's going, go back and forth. They got to respond to everything.
Right.
Yeah.
All this other stuff. So I just think it's funny because I think about each one of us. We all been through
Yeah.
something. I think about, me, like, during that period of just like, okay, I'm trying to figure out what's next, right? Because I'm feeling like, oh my God, how did I get here? Right.
Right. Right.
But then what emerged out of that? Published
Mm-hmm.
author, entrepreneur, right? Talk show host, right? All of these things that, for us, it was like having to make a decision on how we're going to pivot,
Right.
Right.
right?
Yeah. Even with when my first marriage was falling apart, I spent a lot of years talking about what he did,
Mm.
how he treated me wrong, how he's the one that caused this marriage to break up.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a number of years to also realize that I played a role in
Mm-hmm.
some of that, not accounting for or taking acceptance of what he may have done, but I had to look at what some of my actions were.
Mm-hmm.
What was I doing to our marriage? Because I certainly by no means was a perfect wife, but what were there things that I was doing that I should have talked to him about? I should have probably moved in a different direction. I should have taken his feelings and his actions into
Yeah.
consideration first. And I didn't do that, but I allowed my emotions and everything else to get in the way first. That to me, it was just I was justified in the way that I was feeling because of what he did to me and to our marriage.
Yeah. And let's be real about it, right? That's normal for the average Joe Schmo. Like that's all of us, right? Because I know when I went through my stuff, I spent time just like going over in my mind, repeating the story, telling everybody what happened, telling myself what happened, right? And it wasn't until I went to therapy and then started doing coaching with Trey that I really was like, you know what? You gotta look, and I just told somebody else this too. I was like, sometimes we have to look at what's the common denominator in
Yeah.
in whatever we're going through, right? But to the point you're making, Sheila, it's so true, because when I wrote the chapter in the first book, right, that healing, loving you is hurting me, right? One of the main things I said to the other co-authors was, I wanted to tell my story, but I didn't want it to be from heavy on the lens of what happened to me. I wanted to be more of how I healed from it.
Okay.
Right. And so that's why when people read the book, they was like, oh, we would have wanted to hear more, right, of the story, because I just gave woke up one morning and did it, and then like a brief synopsis. And I was like, I did that on purpose.
Right.
Because this wasn't about what happened to me. This was about how I healed from it.
Yes.
Right. And then when I started my coaching business, it really was also about, one, helping women to realize, like, after 40, things don't stop.
Right.
Life is always happening to us, but we can still evolve from it. But I also wanted the women that have probably been through the same thing that I've been through, because as I was healing, I realized as I shared my story, I wasn't the only one. Like, I literally ran into a woman yesterday in the supermarket, and I'm not one for I don't know what happened to me since I moved to the South. I really don't. Out talking to strangers, right? So, and I mean, we probably still like 15 minutes, like in the supermarket. And her story was that she's been married for 28 years, right? And her husband just decided that he wanted to move to Africa. He wanted to go, right? And it was interesting to hear her talk about how she received it and how she handled it, to where it's a blessing, because she went and did what she needed to do to make sure whatever, like, she was secure and she'll be taken care of and she won't come out on the bad end of it. But it was amazing. But I also had an opportunity to share my story, right? But I say that to say that although our stories weren't the same, we still have been through similar stuff, right? And the more you talk with people, the more you share your story, the more you find, like, I'm not the only person that went through this.
Right.
Right. And there is life after it.
Yes.
There's definitely life after it. I'd like to say, as a empty nester now, for real, it's, I have to redefine myself, right? Because I'll always be a mother. But the children are not children. They're adults, right? They're making their choices, living their lives. So the same level of engagement is different. The same level of responsibility is different. But what's different, the thing that also is different, is my level of prayer, because now I pray differently because they're grown and out there in this world. And so I pray for protection more so, because I'm not with them, or they don't come home and I get to, hey, see their faces, and you good, or just it's different things. So I had to take a minute to relook at, well, what do I do now? Because, you know, my reason for working, my reason for, uh, taking certain jobs or doing certain things rotated around being there for my children.
Mm-hmm.
And but not just that, as a wife, what my responsibilities are to my husband and how that was going. So it's all those things that I had to redress. And if anybody's a mom or auntie mom, you look at what you've done right and what you did wrong, what you could have did, and all of
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. And you have to learn how to forgive yourself and don't make yourself the villain in your story,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because at the end of the day, that doesn't help you. As a matter of fact, that's one of the most stifling things you can do. um you have to be able to forgive yourself, um own your stuff, like I like what Sheila said. In a sense, accountable, be accountable for what's there, but don't let that be the chain to hold you down. Let that be what frees and releases you. Let that liberate you to taking yourself to the next level. So now, as you reemerge after going through and growing through your experience, you come out better. You come
Mm-hmm.
out with a different sense of purpose. And that's not easy for some of us. That may mean getting a coach, that may mean counseling, that may mean journaling and being honest with yourself. And if it's to the if your comeback needs help, get help with your comeback.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to get help with your comeback. Because sometimes when you start unpacking those things, it could be a lot. It's a lot of emotion. It's a lot of situations that you sitting there in the middle of all of that. It's like, how do I now um, do the comeback that I want to from the setbacks? And you may not be able to do that by yourself. So my suggestion, in all seriousness, sometimes the best way to make your comeback is to get some new tools in your toolkit. If you don't have the tools in your toolkit you need, because sometimes your best friends, your sister girls, and your sister, they may be there and they may be your rocks, but sometimes that's not enough. You need impartial. Sometimes you may need someone that's impartial that provides you with the skill sets to help you get
Yeah.
through certain experiences or your emotions or the fact that you keep making yourself the bad guy or the bad girl in the story. You got to forgive yourself. If you a believer, you know that's not of our Father. He doesn't want you holding stuff over your head and beating yourself up. If he said you can come to me and lay it on me, and if you repent, he says if you repent, I'll hear you and I'll respond.
Mm-hmm.
If he says that to us, why do we then beat ourselves up? So if
Yeah.
you're a believer and you trust in his word said this. Don't beat yourself up. Take it to him. So and so when you come back, like you said, we have different things that I didn't have before I went through the stuff I did almost 8 years ago. But because I did the work, because I did get the therapy, I did get coaching with Trey, I started doing the stuff that made my heart feel good, which is serving. One service led to another, one thing built upon another, and then next thing you know, I'm creating programs. I'm starting a business. I'm reaching out to help more people, because it wasn't about just standing there holding on to the bad stuff. It's allowing good stuff to come in, allow your unique gifts to show up, and
Yeah.
if you need help with that to make your comeback strong, and not for anybody else but for you, because the better you are with your comeback, the better you will be when people see you. They're gonna be like, wow, she got a ooh, she all
Yeah.
right, I see you. Okay. And they're like, I can't put my finger on it, but that's
Something is
not
different. She
that's not
moving
the chick
differently.
I saw,
Yeah.
back in day again, back in the day, right?
Yeah.
That's not the same. She's her, but she's a little different. She got a little spice, all right? She got a little pepper. She got a little sazon. She got a little seasoning going on, okay?
Yeah.
She
But
got
I
some
but I love
experience.
But I love everything you said. So for those of you who are listening, this is the Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network, and we're talking about the comeback, bouncing back after setbacks. And so we started out talking about Will Smith and his new album that he has out, which is another thing that I think is interesting because I've mentioned that to people, and my cousin, who is a musician, who normally is the one calling telling me stuff, has said, "Oh, I didn't know he came out with a new album." Then my other, so I think the other thing is too is he it's out there, but it wasn't like he was like, "Oh, I gotta announce it." You know how some people are like, "Oh, you hear
It sounded like he did it for him.
They going on all the radio shows,
yeah.
right? They're doing all the interviews, they're sharing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's there. I mean, I think I only stumbled on it because I heard the song that he has with Tiana Taylor, and I liked it.
Okay.
And then when I looked, I saw that he had come out with a whole album. So then I was like, all right, I got this drive. I'm gonna listen to it. But as you were talking, I was thinking about, right, what you were saying about sometimes we need help, right? And I think the one thing I want people to hear is that it's okay not to be okay. And I would say one of the things I learned on my journey was it's okay to let people know that you are not okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because just to be real, just to be honest, and truthful to people. I was the girl that you asked me how I'm doing. I'm okay. I'm okay. Right. I could do it. I'm not asking for help, right? And I got to the point where I literally had to say to my girls, my core, I'm not good. Right? I can't get out of this. And then I got to the place where I was like, I can't get out of this space. So one day I sat on the side of my bed and I thought, I heard this voice say, you could stay in this space or you could heal. And that's how my healing is a choice.
Right.
Brand came from, but that's also what made me go back to therapy, because I went to therapy in my 20s and then didn't. But when I went back with the mindset that I wanted to heal responsibly. And people would be like, what do you mean by that? I was like, I wanted to heal in a way that I was going in to look at me and not everybody else.
Gotcha.
Right? I remember saying to one of my girlfriends, I need to figure out what's wrong with me. And she was upset because she was like, nothing is wrong with you. And I said, I'm not saying anything is wrong with me as a person, but there's something wrong with me because I keep finding myself in these situations, right? I keep finding myself in these relationships that don't work out. I've had insecurities that I wasn't really acknowledging or, dealing with, right? There was, I will tell anybody, I am very confident in my professional space.
Right.
What I found is I wasn't really showing up confident and as confident as people thought I was. So I think the confidence that people saw in me was the confidence that came from my professional realm, which into, right? So you look at me, yeah, I look like I got it all together. Yeah, she right?
Right.
But that was kind of helping me show up as being confident. And I had to look at the fact, where are the places on your personal side that you have some insecurities, where you're not really confident in the same way you are in your professional life, where you do have some fears about things, where you do feel uncertain about some things, where you are not sure. And I think that's a space where a lot of people, I'm not going to just say women, but we're talking about women, so I will say women, but it also applies to men as well, where until we acknowledge, right, that, yeah, I have some insecurities. I have some fears. There are some things that I'm not sure of. There are some things that I made mistakes and I'm still holding on to, right? And I gotta forgive myself. There are some relationships, like Sheila said in the beginning, that I am holding on because I'm still stuck in what this person did to me, as opposed to letting it go. And I think
I know she would get ready to say beauty.
right, and making that and making that investment, right, in those two things is that it allows you a space where you don't have friends who love you dearly, who are going to co-sign your mess, who are
Mm-hmm.
going to agree with.
Theo, you said two things. Which two
Mhm.
things were those?
Because you
I said,
froze.
You
oh, okay.
froze.
I said the beauty of coaching and
Oh,
therapy,
okay.
right,
Yeah.
is in making that investment
That investment
And
in yourself.
yes.
to
Yep,
unpack,
absolutely.
right? Where you don't have the friends that are gonna co-sign your mess. You don't have the friends that are gonna be like rah rah rah, right? You know, because I mean, and then because we all know, we know our friends who are gonna check us,
Yep.
and then we know our friends who are gonna tell us what we want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're not in that good space, who do we call? We call the friends that we know are gonna tell us what we want to hear. Not the friends that are going to be like, nah, you not showing up right, girl. And I think the wonderful thing about this space is that we all have done the work. So we all do hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
So I'm going to think twice about something that I'm putting on social media because I know one of you might be like, Theo, what's that? Take it down.
Right.
Theo,
Right.
Right.
why are you on social media arguing with people you don't know?
But you know what? I want to go back to actually something Regina said when she talked about how it did that your comeback gives you an opportunity to remember your gifts. It could also be a time when you discover your gifts.
Yes.
I think so many of us, and I know that I'm included in that myself at times, some of us, we are either stifling our gifts
Yeah.
or we are sitting back there saying, well, I found my gift. That's all. You know, that's all that's all I'm supposed to do, right? That's all I'm supposed to work. And it's like, there's probably more for you out there.
Yeah.
Right.
And while you may not need to hit rock bottom to find these gifts, or even as Regina said too, again, using it as an opportunity to get new resources. And as Theo, you were pointing out, those new resources may be finding somebody else that you need to talk to, right?
Yeah.
Find that impartial person, find that neutral person.
Mm-hmm.
But there's probably more out there that you have been sitting on, not sitting in, right? Because we've been talking about sitting in,
Pookie, come on.
sitting, right? You're
Yeah.
probably sitting on something that you should be out there building and sharing.
Yep.
And this setback that you may have had may be the time for you to realize that you have other gifts or that you have gifts, period, that you have not been recognizing for whatever that reason may be.
Yeah. And if you think about it, right? One of the spaces that I feel so many people, and especially our era, right, get stuck in is that place of employment, that 9 to 5, that security of that biweekly paycheck, right? Where, you know, you have this security that holds you in a space where you're getting up every day. And I'm not saying this is for everybody, and you're dragging yourself into a space that you don't want to be in. You're miserable. And sometimes, right, we can't let it go because we need that bi-weekly security check, right? But the other side of it is what happens when, and I say this from being someone in human resources, you get the call from your manager that says we got a meeting in the morning, and you walk into the door and it's not just your manager, but HR is sitting there too. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say
Mm-hmm.
it all to y'all. It's not fun for HR, especially for this HR person, because I hate having those conversations. But I think this is I think this is a good comeback, a good story to have. And I wish Regina was here, right? Because Gina, you've been laid off too, but it just Regina's story to me was like amazing because it was like she got laid off. She told us maybe for about a week, she might have been like, "Ah." And then the next thing she was like, "Oh, I'm going here. I'm traveling to this. I'm going on vacation." Then she came back and she was a substitute teacher, right? Now she just wrote a book, right? And what she's 60, what 64, 65. I can't remember how old she is. I always get her age wrong. But I say that to say that her comeback was
It's
like
on 10.
exactly. It's on 10.
Yeah.
And I say it because she's not in her 40s. She's not in her
Right.
30s. She's not in
Right.
her 50s. She's in her 60s.
And she didn't give up. She didn't quit. She didn't stay stuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She pivoted. All those things she pivoted, moved in a different direction, and she's been moving ever since.
She's
And,
been
And
thriving. Yep.
yes, she
exactly.
has. Yes, she has. And I'm going to tell you from with my experience, especially in a position that not because of the position, but because of what I was doing in the organization. I really and I still I have what this I got mad love, I got mad respect for the organization and what we did there, and what it continues to do, dress for success. And when you're a part of an organization, when you believe in the mission and the vision, and you don't mind going in hard and you do the work, and different things happen, you grow, you learn, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, hey, having that conversation, and you
Here's
know,
your package.
yeah, the beauty though was that I was prepared. I won't go into it now, but I knew when it was coming. I knew something
Yeah.
was happening. So I had started preparing in advance. I had made sure that I organized my files. I made sure to leave well because I came in when I really got and understood what we were about, what the organization was about. I wanted to leave well. So I
Mhm.
made sure my files were in order. I told my team what they needed to do. We got things organized. So when I left, things were set up for a smooth transition, right? Because
Hmm.
that was the way I needed to leave. Um, and I had to take my journey for coming up out of my stuff to come back for me was the the business, right? The comeback for me was what I got to do serving on a board that, as an executive um board member, and given to that. The comeback for me was expanding on my skill sets in
Mm.
culinary and that sort of thing, and starting an online food training program during the
Mm.
pandemic, and just the things that I've been doing even in this current job. Titles don't always mean what they mean. I've been able to expand and grow in this current position because I was able to take what they said I'm supposed to do versus what I'm really supposed to do and expand. And I have a director that's very flexible, and he sees what I'm about and my potential. He's like, all right, you got it. And so I've been able to create. So the beauty of not begging for where you were, but understanding that was that, and let it be there, and don't bring the anger or whatever. I learned so much. Even in the stuff that happened that I didn't feel good about, it was still a learning experience. So when I went into this next opportunity, guess what, y'all? I knew my worth. So
Mm.
you couldn't throw something at me and tell me like you was doing me a favor. I came with the guns. I came ready. I came poised, not arrogant, but confident. And when I was in that interview, they knew they were getting someone that was a a compliment. to what they were doing. And I knew it. It wasn't about they knew and I became their asset. I knew what I brought to the table and I let them know that I knew. And because of that, while I'm still there, I make sure that I'm a contribution.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to do that, I've been able to grow and learn two expansions of my skill sets that I took with me to that organization. So that's a real comeback. And I became an author. I wasn't looking to do that. Like, say, what?
Yeah.
So all of these things happened after what I thought was going to just rock my world. And it did for a minute. It did for a minute because I'm sensitive, y'all. You don't know, but I'm sensitive, okay? But
we're not laughing at you. We laughing with you.
I know. So, you know, when you sensitive stuff and you take things heavy and stuff, it's like, dang, you know. But like Theo said, and Sheila, I was willing to look at where was my role. How did I get to that place where I probably should have left sooner, right? Not probably, I should have, but guess what? The fear of the unknown was more of a challenge than dealing with what I already knew wasn't comfortable, and I knew that I should have moved on. Like I knew it, right? So that was the best thing that could have happened to me.
I mean,
because I'd have been stayed in a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
but I think that's important though, right? Like,
Yeah.
Because one of the things you said, you know, about being ready, I think the most important thing I hope anybody hears from anything that we have to say is one of the things, if you're in a space where you're saying, I can't do this because of this, right? I'm not discounting that. I'm not discounting I can't, because for years I was like, oh, I can't get a coach, right? Because I can't afford it. But then when I was like, okay, look at all the money you're spending in Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
That's your fee for the coach, right? So what, you know, what I now try to share with people is, right, you gotta stay ready to be ready, because you never know when something that you have no control over is gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right. You're gonna get laid off, or you're gonna, you know, whatever happens, right?
Yeah.
And so I really honestly think that, you know, it's never too late to get your finances in order. It's never too late to lose weight. It's never too late to start over, right? Like Gina said, I would have never thought I would be saying I'm a published author, right? I would never thought I would be saying, although it was a dream of mine years ago, that I own my own business, right? I would have never thought that. But the reality was, like you said, there came a point where I was like, you know what? And I want to just say this to people, right? I left an executive level job. Like I literally made a conscious decision to say, you know what? I'm going to go back to being an individual contributor. And for anybody that's wondering what that is, that means I went back to a space where I had less responsibility because I was no longer responsible for leading other people. I was no longer responsible for making decisions that I had to make at an executive level. I was no longer tied to a cell phone that could go off any time of the day, because I always worked in 24/7 organizations, right? But when people are like, oh my God, you know, I'm like, yep, it's gonna probably be less money. Yep. But you want to know something? It was at that point that I was like, you know what? I prepared for it.
Yes.
Yeah. What did I need to do to make sure? One of the things was I couldn't stay in expensive Hackensack in a condo where I was paying a mortgage and a HOA that felt like another mortgage, right? Right. So I relocated, right? Where my money goes a little further. And when I first relocated, I still had my New York City job. So for 7 months, I was in North Carolina making a New York salary. So that allowed me to, you know, take care of some stuff, right? But I said all that to say is that I didn't just be like, oh, I'm going to go and become an individual contributor because I want to focus more on growing my business, whatever. I said no. Also, it was about, I reached a stage in my life where I was like, you know what? What matters more to me? This title or my peace of mind?
There you go.
There you go. For real.
Say it again, Thea.
What matters more? This title, this situation, this whatever, for my peace of mind. And I had got to the point where I was like, you know what? I want to be at peace. And you want to know something? If I'm going to work hard for somebody, let me work hard for myself.
You better say
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That is, that's y'all. There's 2 clips y'all need to listen to. You need to listen to 43 minutes in when Sheila was talking, what she said that was priceless. You need to pick that up, and you need to listen to 54 minutes and like 22 seconds when Theo was talking. You need to pick that up, and y'all can listen to my clips in between because you know they were all pop. But what I'm saying,
But it's so true. Like I'm so proud of each and every one of us, right?
listen,
Because each and every one of us made a decision
yeah,
to invest in ourselves,
yep,
to invest in coaching, to invest in therapy, to invest in whatever we needed to do to be better,
yes,
to have a peace of mind. Because we all are doing what we want to do right now. Even we're still working a full-time job. We don't mind going to work because we are doing what we want to do, but also it's because we found a space of peace.
yeah. And guess what, y'all? You make your comeback is going to be different, but take some of the cues that Theo, that Sheila, that I were talking about in regards to when you hold yourself accountable. It doesn't mean that you beat yourself up. Allow yourself to own whatever it is you need to own, but then allow yourself to release it. Okay, because there's nothing you can do about replaying that over and over and over. There is nothing about that situation you can change. So the only other option you have for your comeback to be amazing is to amazingly forgive yourself. And
Yes,
maybe the people that were part of that situation, because holding on to the victim, being the victim in that scenario, you give your power away.
Mm-hmm.
So do not allow anyone to take up space in your mind, because they take space in what you do and how you move, because you still ticked off about that situation. Let it go. If you need help to do it so that you can focus on how can you be a better version of yourself. What is it either that you didn't know that you have, or that you knew that was there but you put it on the side? Pick that back up. Get your Will Smith on in the sense of your comeback. Okay? Get your Theo on, get your Sheila on, get whatever your name is, get that on for you. And it's your own process.
Get whatever you need, she was gonna say, because you froze a minute.
Okay.
So
Right. Get whatever you need. I said something else. But get whatever you need. That's right, Theo. So that your comeback can be amazing. But it's a process. And listen, you don't have we're not saying rush it, but really when you take the time to love yourself.
yeah. Oh my God. That is so
Please take the
key.
time to love yourself.
That is so key.
I'm gonna be quiet because we have 58 minutes.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say we coming up on an hour, but we started a little late, so it's okay. But what I will say also is, and this is this is my one of my taglines, right? Being an intentional coach, right? Like I'm very much into intention, but I also believe that when we change our narrative, we can change our lives.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And so you will see that, like, if you see, my little tag, like my little picture or whatever, and my coaching stuff, you will see it says, change your narrative, change your life. And what that means is you are the CEO of your life. It's like a pen journal, right? Like I say to people, because maybe you can't afford a therapist, right? Maybe you can't afford a coach. I believe that we can invest in the things that we want to invest in, because some of us, when we look in our closet and see the Coach bags and the Louis Vuittons and all that, but I'm not going to go there. I'm digressing. But I will say, take the pen and begin to rewrite your narrative. Because then you will see how that impacts your life. You are the CEO of your life. You get to chart your journey. You get to write your story. You get to rewrite your story as many times as you want to. The one thing I caution you not to do is get stuck in the chapter that you have to keep reading over again, or the movie that you have to keep rewinding, right? Learn to keep pressing play and pivot and rewrite and do whatever you need to do until you get to the space that you are living the life that you envision. It is possible, because we're all doing it. And we're still not probably living the perfect. And
I'm working towards it. I'm pressing towards the mark.
You will never live a perfect life, because there's no such thing, right? But you can shape the life that you want. Sheila, I be watching Sheila. I'm like, Sheila out with her and her husband on date night, wine, food,
As one of my daughters told me, Sheila be outside, y'all. She be outside.
I be outside.
And if you heard her earlier, and if you didn't, when you watched the replay, you will hear how she went from her first marriage that was totally different from the second.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But that's because she rewrote her narrative.
Rewrote the narrative. Show enough.
So rewrite your narrative.
You heard that? Show enough.
That's my closing. That's my closing thought. Sheila, I'm gonna let you take us out.
Show enough, Sheila. Go ahead.
Listen. Own it, then release it. Don't look for an example. Be the example. And as our founder, Trey Carney, says, you deserve the best. Now go out and get it.
Hey.
Love it. So that is it for us. It's a wrap. Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network. Our topic tonight was the comeback, right? Bouncing back, right? After a setback. And so join us here next Monday night. Oh, yep. Next Monday night, we gotta talk about that, because next Monday I think is holiday.
It's a holiday.
It's a holiday, so we might be on holiday. Y'all might be listening to a replay, but we are here every Monday night Eastern Standard Time, and we are so grateful that you tune in, whether it's live or whether it's on a replay. Please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, come back and visit us, not only for the Woman to Woman show on Monday night, but I think Trey has a show on Wednesday night with her and Lamar, which is
it's good. I've been listening to it.
It's fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, our network is growing. We thank you for getting us to 3,500 subscribers, but we want you to keep on. And we'll see you next Monday, or maybe not, but we will see you Monday night, Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. And we will let you know, you will hear whether we're going to be here next Monday or not. But join us the next time we are here.
One more thing real quick. I want you to tell 2 friends, and then they tell 2 friends, and so on, and so on, and so on. So they can like, subscribe, and share.
Yes.
Okay, YouTube on New You Nation Network. We're on YouTube, New You Nation Network. Remember, tell 2 friends and let them tell 2 friends. Okay.
And stop by the other shows too. We won't be mad at
it. There's a really great shows.
And
more shows on the New You Network.
We're in control of our content. So and we won't cancel ourselves. So have a good night, everybody, and thanks for joining.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night.